Why have you called me out of my casket?
I totally thought the zombie vampire apocalypse would be more scary.
Howdy, folks, and welcome to episode 478 of the Dead Robot Society. Paulie Cooley here, joining me today, as always, Mr. Terry Mixon. How are you, Mr. Mixon?
I have contractors in the house, so I'll be muted. Can you hear that, listeners? So I'll be muted when I'm not talking.
This is one of those times where home improvement can be very, very inconvenient. And I think Terry is illustrating the point just fine. Although I do like the fact that he's muted. But now I have to actually let him speak. What's going on, Bubba?
I'm just going to let that, drilling sound, be my only answer.
Okay, what's going on the writing front?
It has been a very disruptive week for writing. I've gotten some done, but not nearly as much as I want to, because as soon as life settles down, more contracting chaos. The outdoors is done. All of the stuff we had to do, landscaping, roof, gutters, all of that is done. Now it's all indoor work. So the electricians are here today. We've got sheetrock guys that are supposedly coming in the next week or two. Middle of next month, we've got the flooring people that are going to replace all the flooring downstairs. That's going to be a week-long project. And on the 29th, they're coming in to replace the AC ducting. So it has been chaotic. It is going to continue to be chaotic, but I still hope to finish the Empire book by the end of this month or within a couple of days of that.
Cool. That would be good. That's always good. So nothing else?
Considering people keep going, where's the book? Where's the book?
Oh, you get that too, huh?
A lot, like every Facebook post. What are you doing? Why are you on Facebook? Go right.
Yeah, that's pretty much how that is.
That's me. I've got nothing else writing wise. What about you, Sport?
Wow. Let's see. Friday released Gears Inferno, an ebook. It is not sold worth a shit, but since I haven't really started a promo plunge for it, I'm not surprised. I got the proofs for the paperback on Saturday morning, which was kind of shocking. So got the final version of the trade paperback up on Saturday night. Amazon approved it. And now I'm taking pre-orders from my store, or you can get it from Amazon.com. But it's out there. So now all I got to do is finish the damn audiobook and I'll be done. I may actually wait until the audiobook is out before I do the full promo push for it. Just because having all three out there, but since people were screaming at me to get the trade paperback and ebook up, I got them up. So hopefully I'll have the majority of the recording done this week, but no guarantees on that because I'm writing 2,500 words a day on destruction and trying to wrap it up because it's taken way too long. Thank you, Terry. It's taken way too damn long to get destruction done. So I want to get that done. And I'm already planning on, I'm not planning on deciding. I'm still deciding which book I'm going to write next. Signal Decay still seems to be the top of the list. So I can get back into some less complicated sci-fi and something that has a definitive end to it. But I'll be working on that.
Just admit it, it's experimental. It's experimental.
God, stop calling my fiction experimental, you chump. Anyway, I've already, like I said last week or the week before, I've already outlined 4 more books in the Soul and Beyond universe, and that doesn't even include the AI psychologist stories that I want to write. So I've got a lot of things to decide, and we'll see where things go. But that's all for the new year. This year, there's only 4 or 5 days left in it, since we're recording this on the 26th. So I've got. We'll see if I make it, but I'm trying like hell to get Derelict done. What does that say? I can't even read that. Hold it up again. 14 books. You may be right. So
Yeah, I was trying to be
I'll
quiet while
recording my butt.
the thing was going nuts, so I couldn't actually stop and say that.
Yeah, I understand. I've just got to try and get the audiobook finished. I was going to record this morning, and then I found out that before I released the trade paperback and the ebook, I combined several chapters in several places into one chapter. So I had to basically go back and fix all my files, which took like an hour. That sucked. So when I finish recording this, and when I finish editing the show, then I can go and finish another chapter of Destruction, which is going to be a long one, and then get back to recording Gears Inferno. So it's going to be a long several days for me, especially since last week was so chaotic with my birthday and Christmas Eve, and I got kidnapped twice, days in a row. So it was nuts, but I'm back on the horse now. So that's pretty much all that's fit to print on my side of things. It took a lot of work to get the Gears Inferno stuff done, but I'm pretty happy with Vellum. There's some things that I hope to get them to change to make it a little bit better as far as being able to control. And I wish they had an export to Word doc. Wish they had an option for that.
They do.
For print?
I know that out of the Vellum file, you can export to a Word doc.
Right, but the one yes, but the one it develops for print. In other words, if you go to the print deal, it only offers you PDF. It doesn't offer you another option unless I miss something.
No, they don't.
So there's some fine tuning stuff that I think needs to be done. But overall, Vellum was grading paperback with Vellum was a fairly painless experience. So.
I should have also mentioned that Donna has the Empire of Bones series, including the omnibus, basically done in Vellum, and she's hoping to have them submitted today so they can go through the approval process tomorrow and ship out physical copies so I can look them over. So those will be out early next year, and even before they come out, she should have the other 5 books that I've published done as well. So it's almost there.
Awesome. That's gonna be fun to see how that does. So,
yeah, it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Now you just need to get all the rest of the books in audio, right?
Well, all of the Empire books are in audio as it sits right now. They are. All 7 of them are currently in audio. And I did have a discussion with Veronica about doing Liberty Station and the 2 books in that as well. And she agreed to go ahead and do them. So she's already working on Liberty Station. I don't know that the post-apocalyptic or the one Storm Divers will ever get audio, but the majority of my catalog has got some Veronica goodness in it, or
awesome.
will have.
That is awesome. That is completely and totally awesome. I'm glad.
And of course, the audio versions of the Vengeance stories with Glenn Stewart are out there. At least the one is, and the other one is coming in January.
Yeah, I'm such a slacker. Oh well. 2018, my goal is to not be a slacker because I can't afford to be a slacker. So,
well, you obviously can't afford to be a slacker since we're doing the 365-day challenge.
Yeah, that's another thing about that. But we don't have a word count set for that.
No, it's actually better not to have a word count. I found that word counts intimidate me into not writing. And if I just have the goal to sit down and write something, then I tend to write more than just a minimum. So I actually like the idea of just committing to write something every day.
And I still think David Wood's advice applies, which is write 8 minutes. Find 8 minutes, write for 8 minutes. If that's all you can get, just get it. Just get it. So I'm firmly attempting to get into that. I had time to write 200 words before I left yesterday for my parents' house. Christmas Eve, I managed to get, I think, 1,000, maybe 1,200. So just by sitting down and starting to crank on it, and suddenly the story kind of opened up and I wanted to keep going. So tearing myself away from the computer was actually a problem. And today I had to stop in mid because I was like, all right, I looked up and was like, all right, it's time to do some work on the audiobook. give myself a break, and I'll jump back into the story pretty fresh and hopefully be able to tackle a lot more tonight. So we'll see. It's going to be one of these situations where I'm going to get the work done as fast as I can get it done before my boss at my day job begins pestering me for all the things that she wants me to do. So
those unreasonable people that pay you salaries.
I don't have a salary.
You get money, don't you?
I'm an hourly contractor.
Oh, okay. Well, that's totally different.
There's no salary.
My previous employers, even though I was salaried, treated me like an hourly employee.
Been there, done that. Yes, it's kind of a problem. Yet another reason why I left the corporate world and probably won't ever go back. So, unless forced at gunpoint. Anyway, I guess we should move on to other topics of interest.
I'm always interested in interesting topics.
Well, we've had a couple of posts on world building in the Facebook listener group and listeners to the Dead Robot Society Facebook group. Ding! That involved world building, and my friend Robert Stikmanz has taken that to a whole new freaking level. So, without further ado, let's get our author / musician / visual artist / video artist on the show. Let's see what he's got to say. So today we have with us an author, an artist, and a musician, and a generally good guy all around, Mr. Robert Stikmanz. Hello, sir.
Hello, sir.
Hello, sir.
And hello, sir, also.
Hello, I am not a sir.
Do not, yeah, don't say nice things to Terry. We don't want him to get used to them.
Okay. Hello, Mister.
So, Robert, tell us about yourself real quick.
I'm of a generally vertical orientation at this time. A little bit overdressed for the temperature in the kitchen here, but surviving despite the sweat rolling down my back.
Yes, but what would you say you do here on planet Earth?
Do we have time for that? I mean, really?
Okay, what are you doing that's relevant to this show?
All right, now you're defining terms. I can cope with that. I am a creator, a multi-front creator, I guess. I write, and I'm an illustrator and a designer. I'm also a sound artist. Most recently, I attracted a little bit of attention because I invented a language, and I have managed to assemble all of the information I put together over the years and finally produce a reference for the language, which you guys have.
So as a writer, what exactly do you write?
Mostly I have written narrative fiction. What kind of narrative fiction is always a difficult question for me. I have had academics tell me they won't read my work because they don't read speculative fiction, and I've had writers of speculative fiction say, "What are you doing hanging out with us? You write literary fiction. You're here under false pretenses." I think I write Robert Stikmanz fiction. It's out of a single universe. All of my work comes out of one universe. The visual art, the sound art, all of it references the realm that I call Hauptvarsha. But the stories I tend to tell tend to be the stories of the human beings who befriend, interact, or antagonize my fictional people, the Dvarsh. And the Dvarsh sit at the center of my universe without always being at center stage. Although in the new work, they're certainly at center stage.
I assume you're talking about the seven-jewel bird?
No, they're not in the seven jewel bird. I don't think of that as a public work yet. I haven't found anyone who wants to do anything except send me rejection notices on the seven jewel bird.
Oh, well, that's basically like us too. So don't worry about it.
No, the most recent work I was talking about is Dvarshan Introduction.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So, which
Of
it's
course.
an introduction to the Varsh language and to the ethnography of the Varsh people.
So, okay, so we've had several episodes on here about world building. We've had folks like Dave Robeson on talk about Archivos and other tools to help folks world build for, coming up with an entire universe in which they set their stories. Now, what are the Varsh in Tolkien parlance?
Much cooler.
That wasn't the question.
I mean, Tolkien wrote about a bunch of hicks. I write about happening people.
Happening people.
Happening people. Yes, they may be dwarves.
There we go.
In Tolkien parlance. Tolkien wrote about a bunch of hicks, right? They walked. They picked nits from their beards, whatever. I write about happening people. The Varsh that I write about, they're talented, they're creative, they're inventive, they're really smoking dancers, they have great music.
You sound like people I want to hang out with.
Well, that's basically why I spend so much time elaborating their worlds. I get to hang out with cool people as long as I'm there.
And then you have to go back to the real world where the rest of us ignorant barbarians live. Is that what you're trying to say?
Well, I just where I live.
So how many books do you have currently set in this universe?
In print or out of print?
All together, ones you've written. It doesn't matter.
Altogether, there are 6 books so far. There are, as of this moment, 2 in print. I have plans to bring the other titles back into print. I've just stopped messing with the larger publishing world, and I have my own vision. I'm in pursuit of that, and the novels will be coming out, but not so immediately. First, I'm actually going to put the world building out, and then once that is in the public sphere, come back and re-release the novels.
Okay.
So putting the world building out into the public sphere first, do you think that it'll attract much attention, or it'll just be there when the narrative stories start coming out?
I'm trying to be smart in an uncharacteristic way for the first time in my life. I created Dvarsh. It actually started just as a graphics project. I created the writing system. And the original glyphs were very cool. I liked them a lot. They did not look like language. My first thought was, I'll create these great looking characters. I'll just stick them together in cool combinations and say, this is language, and use it as a graphic feature in illustrations that I created. Well, the individual glyphs looked cool, but they did not look like language. They were unconvincing. The next thing I tried to do was to use them to phonetically write English, and that was just boring. Very quickly, it got so that I could read the English coding regardless of the characters, and it was just like reading English words, particularly the longer a text would be, the more it just looked like English to me. When I got the idea to actually create a language and went far enough that I wrote the very first sentence in Dvarsh, I just couldn't believe it. Everything came together. Suddenly the symbols worked in exactly the way that I thought they would. This chill ran down my spine. I looked at this weird alien script and I thought, this is really beautiful. And I made it, I made it sitting here in my studio. I made this. And I started putting it on things. I worked Dvarsh sentences onto the covers of my books as they bounced from publisher to publisher. I was putting it on signage that I was putting up at conventions when I would attend conventions. And that's where people were attracted to Dvarsh. People would come walking across a dealer room at a convention, pointing at my sign, saying, what is this? What is this? Is this language? Can I get the dictionary? Can I get the dictionary? When can I get the dictionary? How quickly can I get the dictionary? Why are you working on something beside the dictionary? Well, for almost 10 years, I was resisting that until finally one day I realized, what's the thing people have consistently asked me for? It's references on the Dvarsh language. I had one person at a convention in Denver. Paul and I were both at this convention.
Yeah.
I think it's
Icon.
Right. It's where the convention where you got the idea for mimes. And this guy is standing in the dealer room, there are 200 people in the dealer room, and he cuts me off and he says, every single person in this room has written a novel. When can I get the dictionary for this language? And it's like, you just told me something very important. You just about where my priorities are. The language, in a traditional sense, the way we tend to think of things when we're plotting our stories, it's backstory, it's world building. It just happens that in my world building, I happened into, one of those geek rabbit holes where there were other geeks, and they're saying, wait, this other stuff you're doing, that's fine, but everyone does that. What about this? So, I'm coming back around to your question, Terry. Is it just going to be out there? Well, I kind of feel like it's the other way around. It's like when I get the part of the world that people have asked for out there, then they're going to have more interest in the stories that I tell that reference that world. So I'm backing into it. The first thing that I should say, and I have said this to young writers on many occasions, do not do as I do.
I think we've all said that.
This is not the way you end up as J.K. Rowling, But it's a way forward for me.
Do you think the development of the language kind of, I don't know, gave you a better idea of the Dvarsh themselves? Basically, and we'll show off some pictures of language for those of you who are watching the YouTubes. We'll show you what this looks like. But you had a book called The Way It Grows, which is basically a primer on how the how Dvarsh kind of works together and how it fits together. And one thing that I find really interesting about this is you've made it so that the alphabet and the words themselves become organic in the sense that they actually make art as you are constructing the sentences.
Well, I certainly thought a lot about Dvarsh aesthetics and also Dvarsh visual design. Who are these people? What would they do? What would their voices sound like? There's a whole orthography that comes out of imagining the characters I've described, what would their voices sound like. But yes, Dvarsh is quite consciously an organical, if we can say that, organical writing system. The forms of the characters are those of a vine. They're based on leaves, thorns, buds, and berries. The Dvarsh conceit is that written text is a living vine, and you can write Dvarsh in any direction. You just always read it in the direction that it's growing. And it's hard for me to talk about it without starting to brag, because I still, the original handwritten symbols, I thought they were really lovely. I thought I made some beautiful text with those. And then the font that I ended up creating for the new book. I'm very, very pleased with the forms, with the way they work together. I get excited that I made something that I look at it and I think this is really beautiful. It's just, how many times you look at what you do and you think, okay, well, maybe tomorrow I'll see the lumpy bad parts that I need to fix. Right now, I'm just blind to them. And say, well, so much of Dvarsh, once it began to work, it began to work in an encompassing way.
So you've created this language, and I know we sort of talked about this before. Are you planning on basically putting this in the public domain? What are you planning on doing with it as itself in the font?
Well, the whole point of Dvarsh and Introduction is to share the language with the people who have been interested in it, with the people who have been excited by it, to give them tools to co-create in my world, if that's what they want to do. The font, there's some problems with the font. It turns out that the application I used to create it produces a product that is not stable in every single environment. Works fine for me. I have no problems with it. It performs according to spec. Some other people, they don't have all of the characters. Some of the characters revert to Latin script. I downloaded the fix, the fix kind of sort of helped some of the problems, and for $9 and a modicum of cents, I could upgrade wholeheartedly, and it's just not in the budget right now. So what I'm going to do with the font is I'm just making it available as a free download on my website. I'm working out some of the technical issues on this. If it works for you, fine. If you have problems with it, well, that's the best I can do. But you can always handwrite Dvarsh at the same time. And I did relay out the keyboard to minimize the impact of the instability. The instability in the font seems to be more in the punctuation keys on the keyboard. So I put all of the critical characters onto letters and numbers, and if you read the book, you will find out that punctuation is generally seen as a fairly recent innovation in Dvarsh, and a lot of Dvarsh calligraphy just ignores punctuation altogether.
How can you have a language without punctuation?
Well, Western languages were without punctuation for centuries. Punctuation is really, in the greater scheme of things, a fairly recent innovation for us too. And it certainly isn't stable.
You can tell that just by reading anything on the internet at this point.
Yeah, it's the internet is interesting because it's like the English language is speciating. And it's not according to geographical areas.
No, it's more like according to cliques and subcultures.
right. Yes. Yeah. There's this speciation going on. It's like, what were they from the Time Machine? The Morlocks and
Yeah, Morlocks. Yeah.
the Eloi. And so we're developing Eloi language and Morlock language, and
I want to see the doctoral papers that are written in emoji.
Oh, for crying out loud. Now that you've said that, there probably is some smart ass PhD student out there doing that right now. It would not surprise me.
This is December. They just finished their defense.
Wasn't there a book called Emoji that was all written in emojis? And if not, why has somebody not written that yet?
You're too busy writing Derelict.
I would never write an emoji. I would no. It's no.
You could write an entire book in all the little keyboard shortcuts that millennials use on their phone.
Mine would all be talking poops. That's exactly what it'd be. They'd all be talking poops. Or the what's the symbol? Oh hell, I can't remember. There are two emojis that the teens use to as substitutes for genitalia, and I can't remember which ones they are, but
one of them should be a peach.
Yeah, I think one of them is a peach.
Probably isn't, but it should be.
I think one of them is a peach. Anyway, that notwithstanding.
Leave it to Paul to bring genitalia into this conversation.
You're the one that brought up emojis. I will not.
I am not responsible for where you go in this conversation.
Right.
Cucumbers.
So, Robert, I'm going to say this.
All right.
Yeah, that's too. Pardon the pun, but you're just grasping for the low hanging fruit. Anyway,
cross your legs.
I will make this statement. You may not agree with it, but I will make this statement. What you write is this cross between. It does have elements of literature in it, but it is fantasy. Is part science fiction in places. It's and you like to say that you write westerns.
I do.
So basically you write mashup westerns is what you write.
I write post-apocalyptic future fantasy mashup westerns. Yeah.
All right. That's how many keywords is that on Amazon?
With Ennio Morricone soundtracks,
Well, you've gone so far with the Varsh to even, and I've witnessed you do this, writing music and actually singing in Varsh.
Okay, you're going to have to die so that you can't explain that to anyone else.
So I can't explain that to anyone else?
Apparently you missed the memory wipe at the end of the evening where I was singing in Varsh.
No, I did not miss the memory wipe. Or I missed the memory wipe, yes. I missed the memory wipe, yes.
Like a double negative almost.
But, yeah, there we go. But the fact is you've gotten so far in the world building with, as you said, backing into it with the language. You've got music, you've got the Varsh playing bazookies, you've got you've dragged all this stuff in there to make them a real people that's understandable, even though they aren't.
Well, as my character Jackanapes Plenty says, just because something's imaginary doesn't mean it isn't real. At what point do you actually need a body to claim reality? There was I can never remember which minor German kingdom it was in the 18th century. The officer corps made up an officer, and they were constantly sending dispatches to the king or the Grand Duke or whomever. And this officer's career was advancing, and the ruler kept promoting him and giving him honors, and he was credited with some military victories. And finally was even ennobled, and the rulers decided that he was going to make the guy a baron. He wanted to meet him. And the officers who had made this guy up thought, oh no, things are bad. They created a scandal. They actually stole money so that they could frame the made up guy for it. He ended up being condemned by the ruler, and his entitlements and nobility were revoked, and then there was an incident engineered so that it was reported back to the king or the duke or whomever that the guy was killed. This really happened.
This is out of Three's Company, is what this is.
No. And I'm sorry I can't pull the details. You know, it's like Hesse or, you know, one of those smaller German principalities or kingdoms before the unification of Germany. And it's like, who's to say that guy didn't exist? I mean, he had a military career. You know, he received honors. There was money paid to him. I think it's just because I can't produce a Dvarsh person right now standing beside me, why does that mean the Dvarsh don't exist? They've got a language, they have a literature. The next title I'm going to be bringing out is a new edition of their oracle, which centers around their ancient wisdom book. I have a long poem in Dvarsh that is their origin myth that will see light at some point. There's a Dvarsh board game that I created because I sketched an outline for a story, and it involved two Dvarsh sisters playing a board game, and I thought they're not going to be playing Chinese checkers. They've got to have their own game, and one thing led to another, and so I wrote the rules for this game and designed the pieces. And I think just because I can't produce a steaming corpse, I mean, that's your purview, right? Just because I can't produce a steaming corpse doesn't mean that they don't exist. I mean, at a certain point, I think, you know, the balance of artifacts tip over and present a line of evidence.
So here's the story that we now need to write. Or actually, you should write it, Robert. 50 years from now, anthropologists are going through the steaming pile of debris left behind, and they find this shit, and then start searching for Varsha, start excavating for Varsha artifacts.
Well, I actually addressed that in Dvarshan Introduction.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do.
There's a real problem with finding Dvarsh artifacts because, unlike human beings, the Dvarsh pick up after themselves. So human archaeologists tend not to recognize potential Dvarsh archaeological sites because they're tidy and there aren't many remains. It just seems to be something Dvarsh can't help.
Now, okay, let me ask you this. Let's just put it bald-faced. Are the Varsh basically what humanity should be in your eyes? Is that basically what we're looking at here?
No, they're awfully small.
Beside their height.
That's an interesting question. Tolkien was not my model for the Dvarsh. I go back more to Shelley's Queen Mab and to Shakespeare and to Spencer and to Blake. But those writers, they tend to see the small earth characters as somehow chathonic or non-exalted. I guess what you're suggesting is, yeah, I'm positing an ideal that comes out of the earth rather than out of the sky.
Us mud people just weren't good enough, so you had to create better human beings than human beings will ever be.
Well, we're mud people too. I mean, they're mud people too. The Dvarsh, they have some real problems with human society as a whole, but they really like some human beings a lot, in all kinds of ways. Are they what humans ought to be? I wouldn't be that programmatic about it. It's the Dvarsh are an attempt to envision a different line of social evolution. What if things had been differently? Because I try to show they're not a monolithic society. There's tremendous diversity. There's difference of opinion. They don't all share the same understandings of social custom, or even the same social custom. So they're not a society like Thomas More's Utopia. They're not ideal in that sense. They're more ideal in what if there were a society in which people were fundamentally respectful to each other and generous and kind. And that doesn't mean all knowing, all wise, or they always get it right, or they don't screw up, or, what if those kinds of humane, if you will, for a non-human species, what if those humane impulses were the governing impulses of a society, rather than what nature read in Tooth and Lipstick or whatever.
Yeah, okay, so the book that I really, really love of yours, not really a book, but novella, is Rose Moon.
That actually is part of the Habdvarsha universe. It's not entirely clear unless you know some of the history of the main character there. Boy, I'll probably never write another book like Rose Moon again. I'm glad I did it. Talk about why you like it.
Why I love it. It's got this wonderful fusion of possible psychosis with old gods, Mesopotamian gods. It's just a fun. It has chilling moments, and it has other moments where you just crack up laughing, and other moments you're like, "Holy shit!" So it's this wonderful little ride through possibility.
Well, I think with that story, I did a good job of sitting on the fence. I never wanted it to be entirely clear. Is this person who walks into the main character's life, is this person a lunatic or a supernatural being?
Right.
And
I know how I read it. I read it.
and that is one reading, but I think I did a really good job of not ever calling it one way or the other. Ultimately, there's always question. And there again, I was talking about taking my inspiration for Dvarsh from Shelley and from Spencer and from Shakespeare. I stole Rose Moon from the story of Inanna, Queen of Heaven and Earth, and her battle with the elder god Enki, and just translated it to a new landscape of my mind.
You're not supposed to admit that. You're not. It's okay to steal. You're not supposed to say where you stole it from. Haven't you figured this out yet?
Well, but
I mean, you're robbing the dead, dude. Come on.
Well, that's what I think makes it okay. It's not even grave robbing, since, you know, it's picking up relics off of the desert where they've been uncovered by the wind. You know, the story of Inanna is pretty remote antiquity.
Yes, I will agree with that. And Dumuzi and the whole rest of it. Most folks don't know what that is, which is why Garage's Children has such a difficult time selling books.
Well, you know, as I've never sold a copy of Rose Moon by explaining to anyone what it is. When we were at the convention earlier this year, Staple, there was a moment where a fellow was looking at Rose Moon, and I was talking, and I could just see the curtains descending over his face. I was losing him. I was just trying to talk it out politely until he put the book down and moved on. And all of a sudden he did a double take, looked back at the left page and said, "I'll take it." And I thought, oh, he got to the scene with the teeth.
Yes. Either that or he wandered into one of the sex scenes. Name one. Yeah. Rose Moon's good stuff, people. Go check that out. We'll leave links in the show notes to all the stuff. I just find it really interesting how you've come up with this. Do you plan on opening the fictional world to other people as well as the language and everything else?
No, no, yes, no, yes, no. I don't know. I have the stories that I want to write. The stories that I want to write, I've had them outlined for years. My fiction in the past has suffered from very poor editing. Like many other people who have moved along the bottom of the publishing world, there are a lot of unscrupulous people. There are a lot of inept people. Like many other writers, I got into bad situations. I was so excited somebody wanted to publish my stuff. It's like the idea of doing due diligence never even occurred to me. I want to get back to my stories. I am pushing forward. I had conversations with a couple of game designers about my world and my world building material a few years ago. And they're both prominent designers. One of them told me, "You will not be the first novelist who comes to the public attention for some reason besides their novels." And the other person said, "Well, okay, you're having trouble with your novels. If I were you, I would produce the reference for your language, a new copy of your Oracle, the board game, and your founding poem in Dvarsh, and put those out there. That's going to be immensely interesting to gamers just because it's a fully realized world. And then you're going to be in a position to tell the stories you want to tell." Now, whether I want to open the world up to other people telling stories in my world, there's precedent for that. That's an idea I find really interesting. There is a way in which I want to hold things close until I've done a few essentials that I want to do. And then particularly with Dvarsh, I mean, I would love to see this language turn into something so much bigger than what I can conceive of with one point of view and one intellectual toolkit. I mean, what if 100 people were creating Dvarsh literature and expanding the vocabulary? What if it really became a community? And I would love to see that happen. I get so excited thinking about that. It's why I set up the website dvarsh.org. with a forum. It's just empty right now. It's waiting for people to come and populate it with ideas about this world, about the language, about the other artifacts that I'm bringing to bear from the society. And I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. It could be that people who get excited about Varsh come back and actually present a more compelling world in which to create than what I've come up with on my own. I don't think so. I have, as I say, I outlined these novels a long, long time ago. I want to get back to them. But I do want to see what happens when I open some of these tools
up to other creatives.
Right. Well, all of your questions are yes and no and maybe.
That is questions that are yes and no and maybe. It's just that you're very complex.
Yeah, I think they call it dull, Terry.
I was trying to be nice here, man.
Well, you're really scaring me because I keep seeing your picture come up and you're just looking beatifically into the camera, and I just think that means something's going on with Terry.
He's in his Zeus phase at the moment. He's trying to look like Zeus. So far, it's failing miserably, but other people seem to think he looks like an elder statesman.
Well, I said earlier that Terry didn't scare me, the 21st century did, but now that he's beatific, I'm scared.
I have the lightning bolt right here. Don't make me hurl it.
Yeah, there we go. That's the next thing. Robert, you're gonna write a book about a god who throws cats at people. It'll be wonderful.
There is actually a cat that figures in the second novel from the world, Entrancing. So that's one that was in print and has gone.
And we'll be back in print at some point.
And we'll be back in print at some point. Yes.
Well, let's go ahead and give folks a look at Varsh. I'm gonna screen share real quick here. Here we go. Alrighty. So this is Varshan Introduction. You just released this, correct?
Last week.
Last week is when you released this. Okay, so I got the PDF of the manuscript because Robert's a wonderful person. Anyway, you can see the characters here that are sitting in between the titles. What does that actually say in Varsh?
The large characters to the left say Dvarsh. And it's, I should have it memorized, but it's Ush Zer Chok A. And Ush Zer Chok A is an introduction.
See? Plain, simple to understand. So in this book, you have basically a short history of the language. You've got a short history of the people. You've got examples of, like this, for instance. Basically you can see the spoken. Then you've got the Varsh language beneath it, and then you actually have the English translation. So basically, this book is a primer on the people themselves. A little bit about the people, a little about the human interaction, a little bit of things about some of the stuff that you cover in the stories, not much. And then we go right into, you've got things like, you've got the entire history of the Varsh from 80,000 years ago to now. Timeline of the reconstruction of the Varsh language descent, all that kind of stuff. You have done way too much here, sir. You even gone to the point of, describing all this linguistics characteristics, how all this stuff works. This is insane. This is the product of a madman.
I have been told that. Well, I mean, I have. It has been an interesting thing the last couple of years as I have moved more to put Dvarsh into the world. Uh, Largely, the public comment has been very laudatory. People are really interested in it. But the Snarkoverse likes to weigh in with private messages.
They always do.
And one person asked me very pointedly, what kind of person will even do something like this? And it's like, what am I supposed to be doing? You know, looking for baby ducks on the internet? I mean,
no, it's cat pictures, dude. Get it right.
You know, I'm not going to go looking for a cat picture.
Well, you've done all this work. We've got I'm trying to find what I'm looking here for, because I saw it earlier. I should have had it bookmarked in here, but I didn't. Here we go. So here we've got, again, you've got the Varsh characters, you've got the pronunciation, and then you've got the actual English word, and you go exactly the reverse. So this is essentially a dictionary for speakers of Varsh for speakers as a second language. Varsh is a second language.
Yes.
That's essentially what you've done here.
And leave it to Paul to stop on the page that says anus.
And excrement and feces and
Good going, man.
Vagina and penis. Yeah, genitalia, vagina, penis. He's got all the majors covered. I noticed that earlier.
You know, going back to another convention, a young kid who was about 13 years old was talking to him about Varsh, and he wanted to know if you could say bad things in Varsh. Which led to a really interesting discussion about what constituted a bad thing. But it did tell me that, you know, there was a gap in the vocabulary. There was an area where some very useful common terms probably needed to be coined.
If you don't have curse words in a language, you don't have a language.
Well, yeah.
Okay. Oh, there we go. We're back again. So anyway, that should give those of y'all who are looking at this on the YouTubes should have some idea what you're walking into here. I find it, you know, this is a hell of a creative endeavor and a hell of a mile to be out, because I mean, you've been working on this in one form or another as long as I've known you, and that's been, gosh, 7-8 years now, something like that.
I have been working on the language as the Dvarsh language for almost 30 years.
Right.
And I spent a couple of years doing some experiments in the area. I tried to design writing systems for non-humans as early as 1984. So yeah, I've given a little bit of time to this. And you know, for decades it was a secret thing. I had no idea anyone else was going to have any interest in this until putting it out into the world and finding that more than anything else I've done, this is what people have responded to.
So what's next for you? What's next after since you've finished this monstrosity? What's next for you besides putting the other books out?
Okay, immediately. Well, I released Dvarsh an Introduction as a trade paper. I did this in my heart of hearts. I really wanted to do it as a hardback. I talked to several authors who are involved in self-publication, and they said, oh yeah, hardbacks are great, they're beautiful, they're wonderful, how many do you want in your closet?
It's been my experience.
And so I released in trade paper and put it out to my announce list first off, and the larger number of them came back and said, dude, I'll totally buy this in hardback. So I'm looking at that. I have actually had more people come back and say, I will buy this book in hardback than have placed orders for the paperback. So I'm looking at a mechanism that will allow those people to fund the production of the edition.
Yes, yes.
So
yes,
that it's
please.
completely paid for before I go into it. I will be putting that out in my newsletter in the next couple of days. And it's like, okay, you really want a hardback? You know, let's have some groats and shekels. And
Kickstarter time.
no, I don't think so. I'm gonna do a different approach to it. I suddenly realized the other night I need a workbook. I need a workbook where, you know, you go in and you learn 5 verbs, how to do them in the present tense, and then 5 verbs in the past tense, and 5 verbs in the future, just the simple tenses. Here's some adjectives. You can say, I'm hungry, where's the bathroom? You know, it's unfortunate you did that to your face. And so I'm knocking that out. I expect to have a workbook of somewhere between 36 and 40 pages within a week. And I'm going to put together language kits. What's the best way? You can't learn to speak a language all by yourself.
No.
People ask me all the time, can you speak Dvarsh? No, I know more about it than anyone else on the planet, but there's no one with whom I could speak Dvarsh, so I do not speak Dvarsh. So I want to put together kits. You buy a kit. It's 4 sets of references, the workbooks. You've got a starter club. If I sell 11 of these kits, I will do the hardback edition. I'm going to put it this way. When I have sold 11 of these kits, I will do the hardback edition. There will be a hardback copy in each one of the kits, so nobody gets a kit until actually I sell 11 of them. That's my number. 11 kits, sell that. I do the edition. I'm not exposed, no spec. So that's what's happening right now. It's kind of a tail wags the dog kind of thing. You know, I thought I was going to put out this book and everyone was going to go, oh man, this is extraordinary. This is remarkable. I need 12 of them. Not, I'd totally buy this in hardback.
Well, I know for a fact that there are a number of people out there that would ask Paul what he did to his face, or say that they're sorry about what he did to his face.
What does that have to do with anything?
It just sounded really good.
You just went random on me.
No, I did.
No, I quipped. He caught it.
That was one of his quips that he quoted out of that. So I totally immediately thought of you when he said it.
Right.
So there is like, my question to you is, do you think that going through the process of writing this book and the workbooks that would go along with it, could you write a book up to tell somebody else how to develop their own language, how to go through this same sort of process to take their own vision from random thoughts in their head to a finished product?
Write a book on it? I don't think I want to do that. I do have a workshop. I have been refining this workshop over the last 4 or 5 years. It's at a pretty smoking place right now. I'm ready to go. I can, in an hour and a half, I can get you started. I can't finish it. I can't tell you what the content is going to be. But in an hour and a half, I can provide an orientation. I can get somebody started on a language. And then, the real key to creating a language is just not to quit once you begin. As you develop a rule set, you apply the rule set iteratively, and after 25 years, you've got a language.
Now, come on. It didn't take the guy who invented Klingon that long, did it?
He's an academic. The guy's a professional. I'm shade tree, I mean, I'm a garage linguist,
Boy, no wonder the language is in the gutter. Have you ever listened to people in the garage? Holy moly.
Especially my garage.
The language goes at the end of the night. You get out the hose and you spray off the floor, and then the language is in the gutter. But that's just the pieces that have fallen off the bench.
Oh man. Well, I personally am looking forward to that. You have you talked to any of the universities regarding this yet?
I have given talks at San Antonio College and Austin College about invented language. I am going to be a panelist at Con DFW in February, and I hope they're going to let me present the language workshop there. I'm really just gearing up. I have been, for the past 9 months, I have been so focused on getting this book done. This probably won't mean anything to most of your audience, but I never expected Edward Tufte to be so prominent in my creative process. But Tufte is a theorist on information presentation and graphic design. And I just spent 9 months in bed with the questions that are his stock and trade. So in a way, I'm still blinded by the light of looking up from the screen and going, oh yeah, this book is done. Who do I reach out to with this? On the other hand, I'm ready to go. I've been working on the workshop. It's sharp, it's quick, it's fine. I've got the book. I'm very pleased with the way it's come out. There are, of course, 100,000 things I would do differently if I were starting over from scratch tomorrow. Not even going to happen. I am looking for venues to try and do some appearances. I'm looking for places to talk. I'm open. I am waiting to hear back. I've been writing a lot of letters in the last week and emails. And unfortunately, I'm really pretty phobic about talking on the phone. So
you're not the only one.
Where it comes down to, well, give us a call. It's like, okay, that goes to the bottom of the priority list.
Can we meet for a coffee?
Right. Yeah. Look, I'm totally sending semaphore smoke signals. Can you go outside and look at the sky?
So at some point in American culture, where all of us who are privacy nuts are going to learn Varsh so we can talk to one another without the government spying on us. Is that basically what's going to end up happening in a future story?
The NSA wants to buy a book. I'm going to sell them a book.
You freaking sell out.
The NSA doesn't need to buy your book. They've already got it.
Yeah, you're probably right. Well, thank you for coming on to talk to us. Let me get the end of the show stuff here. If you have questions about this interview with Robert Stikmanz, or you want to berate Terry,
hold it.
What?
Hold it and stop right there. You didn't give him an opportunity to say where people can find him.
You know what? You're right. I suck at this. Robert, where can we find your stuff?
I don't know.
Well, that was a hell of an answer.
Where's the best place to look at your work and tootle around with Varsh?
Stikmantica.com.
Stikmantica.com.
Could you spell that out? Yeah.
STIKMANTICA.com.
There we go.
You can also go to the big shoe store on the web, and I checked, and they've got the new title up, and so if you want to go to other retail purveyors,
the big shoe store on the web is Amazon.
Well,
yes.
damn it! I thought it was like Kohl's or something. Now I'm going to have to totally redirect my browsing habits.
Yeah.
But at Stikmantica.com, I sign everything that goes out.
Yes. And you should subscribe to his email list, because it's always entertaining.
But do you sign it in Devarsh?
I can.
You should.
Have you written your name in Varsh yet?
Actually, I sent several greeting cards last week where I signed Robert and Devarsh. Just hoping people would figure out from the position on the note what it was that I had indicated there.
Well, that's freaking awesome. This has been great. If you have questions about this interview for Mr. Stikmanz, or about Terry's beard, or my beatific voice, you can email us at show@debrobotssociety.com. You can tweet me at Paul_E_Cooley, or you can join the listeners of the Dev Robot Society Facebook group, where we have all the crazy going on, and lots of questions, lots of answers, and lots of ludicrous memes. And we'd be remiss if we didn't thank our wonderful host, Pod Hoster, for making all 14 bazillion episodes of the Dev Robot Society available for your ear holes. And if you would like to check us out on YouTube, you can go to youtube.com/DRS podcast. And if you would like to keep the show free and help us out with all our hosting costs and all the other craziness that goes on producing this show, believe me, there is actually work going on here. You can become a patron at patreon.com/DRS podcast. Terry, shut up. Whereas for as little as $1 a month, you can receive access to exclusive content, live shows, and other insanity. Like, for instance, if you're at the $10 level, every week we read your name.
This is the part of the show I look forward to every week.
Yes, and I closed the freaking window with the names.
Wah, wah, wah,
Yeah, wah, wah. Come on. Here we go. And this week's $10 patrons are Willie B. Hardigan. Nathan is not fond of all the Doctor Who hate that spews from Paul Petty. See, Terry, I told you were going to get me in trouble. Drew Astroglide Astronaut Bernardi. Really? Come on, man. John Kilgallen. Chris still waiting for DRS Swag Winder. Isabel John Madden football cushy. She just changed that. Wow. Quick on the draw. Andre Conde Moraes, DJ Chamberlain, Jonathan Zarusin, and J.R. Hanley.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, thank you so much. So did I cover everything?
I think so.
I didn't miss anything. All right, so go check out Stikmantica.com. We'll leave links in the show notes. And Robert, thank you very much for coming on.
Indeed.
Thank you both. Thank you.
And we will talk to y'all next week. Bye.